Time to get a look at what's grabbing headlines around the world. Florence Villemino joins me now. Flo, good morning. One of the major stories that's dominating the papers, that EU summit on the Mediterranean migrants crisis.
Absolutely, it's a major story, especially here in Europe. Let's take a look at the front page of Le Soir. It's a Belgian paper. I think it sums up quite well a lot of feelings that we're seeing in the press today. Migrants, it's time to act. The European summit must find a solution to the migrant crisis. It points out, though, in its editorial that these kind of emergency summits have already taken place in the past. What is going to be different this time? According to this editorial, it wonders, are European leaders, are they going to find a real solution to the crisis that really attacks the root causes, or just a bunch of quick fixes like they have in the past? And you can see the headline here of the editorial. It says, is this a hypocritical urgency that we're seeing at this summit, or is this responsible action that's being taken?
Well, Flo, that summit due to kick off a little later, but the British paper The Guardian has got its hands on a confidential draft of what might be spoken about today.
That's right. The journalists from The Guardian got an exclusive sneak peek at that draft. Let's take a look at the article in The Guardian that comes back on what they saw. It says that most migrants crossing the Mediterranean will be sent back. According to The Guardian, only 5,000 migrants will actually be allowed to resettle in Europe. The vast majority of those who survive the journey to Italy will actually be sent back under a new rapid return program. And according to The Guardian, this is likely to concern about 150,000 migrants.
Okay, so a huge task there to be dealt with. Now, you've also pulled out a piece by the Italian Prime Minister, Matteo Renzi, an opinion piece in the New York Times saying that the international community's response has, how can we say, been insufficient so far.
That's right. He says that so far the response has really been insufficient. Let's take a look. He says that helping the migrants is everyone's duty. Now, he points out that because of Italy's location, it's really become a lead player in the crisis, but it's reached its capacity and it needs help. It needs help from the EU, according to Matteo Renzi, but it also needs help from other institutions, especially the UN. Now, this echoes reports that came out from the Italian media this week that Renzi's government is actually considering calling for UN camps to be set up in Niger, Tunisia, and Sudan to help deal with this refugee crisis.
Okay, well, moving on to another story. Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and Chinese Prime Minister Xi Jinping met yesterday on the sidelines of a summit in Indonesia. Tell us more.
That's right. It's a very significant meeting between those two leaders. You can read details in the Wall Street Journal here. They discussed territorial tensions in a meeting that was sidelining this meeting in Indonesia. And both sides say that this really marks improved relations between the countries. Tensions have been high for the past months, the last years, really, over these territorial disputes, as you can see here. It's interesting to see how regional papers are reacting to this. Let's start with the Chinese press, rather. Here you can see the front page of China Daily. Now, their photo is focusing on that African-Asian summit in Jakarta. You can see that says that Xi Jinping is upholding a spirit of cooperation. But on the front page, they do mention that meeting with the Japanese prime minister, saying that it's a sign of thawing relations. But it's interesting because if you take a look inside China Daily, well, the political cartoon that they have every day lashes out against the Japanese prime minister. You can see, actually this is not the right thing, but I'll describe the cartoon. You can actually see the Japanese prime minister walking away from a chapter of Japanese history, one that talks about Japanese aggression during World War II.
Well, the Japanese Prime Minister himself did mention that aggression at the summit yesterday. Japanese papers also picking up on that.
That's right. You can read about it in the Japan Times. Shinzo Abe expressed deep remorse over World War II, but he stopped short of apologizing for Japan's colonial rule and aggression during the war. Of course, this is the major sticking point with China as well. But if we take a look at another article in the Japan Times, they try to be positive about all the developments. They talk about how the meeting between Xi Jinping and Shinzo Abe is a sign that differences over history won't derail ties.
Okay, well, staying in the region, Hong Kong's government has unveiled a draft resolution on electoral reform.
That's right. Once again, it's interesting to see how different papers are reacting to this, getting mixed reactions. Let's start with the editorial of the China Daily, which we just got a sneak peek at. It calls it a milestone for Hong Kong democracy. You can see it here. For the very first time, residents of Hong Kong will select their chief executive by one person, one vote. So according to this editorial, that's a crucial step towards universal suffrage. But of course, the sticking point is that all these candidates will actually be vetted by mainland China, and pro-democracy activists who were in the umbrella revolution, as it was called. They aren't so thrilled with this new reform. This is the political cartoon in South China Morning Post here. You can see one man saying, so how is the political reform looking? And the other guy is saying, well, it's a little bit like Mark 6. Mark 6 is a local lottery. It's like Mark 6, but with a more predictable outcome.
All right, Flo, finally, a word on emojis.
That's right, emojis. I don't know if you're familiar. There are these little symbols you can use to spice up your text messaging. Well, a groundbreaking report has come out about emoji use by country. You can read about it here in The Guardian. And I must say, it is fascinating. It's kind of like a sociological survey of the world via emojis. I think it says a lot about the countries. Well, you can judge for that yourself. For instance, Canada is the biggest user of the smiling poop emoji that you can see here in this article. Americans are the biggest user of the eggplant emoji. That was kind of weird. Italians like bananas. Brits like the winking smile emoji. Arabic speakers like flowers and bikinis. And this one I think is quite true. French users like the heart symboled emoji. So French is still the language of love, according to The Guardian.
And your favourite emoji, Flo?
I must say I like the smiling poop.
Okay, all right. Well, on that note, we've finished the paper review. Thanks very much for that, Flo.